welcome everybody. This is the first episode in kind of a subset of my One Piece vlogs that I'm calling right now just some One Piece discussions. I've talked about how I wanted to bring on more creators and just people who've read One Piece and start having just more like podcast type discussions to go along with my One Piece vlog. And if any of you don't know, I'm currently reading One Piece. This specific episode that we're filming today will have spoilers up to where I've read, which is the beginning of kind of the big war arc right before the time skip. So I'm in the middle of that right now, so there'll be full spoiler warning for all of that. But my first guest today is actually my brother. He has his own channel with his good friend. It's called Movie Meals. They do movie reviews. So why don't you introduce yourself a little more?
Yeah, Nick's brother. I've got my show on YouTube, Movie Meals. We do stuff about basically movie stuff. We do some anime stuff on there. Nick's been on to talk about Avatar was our most recent one. We've done a couple different videos, but we talk about most things movie and TV, which anime is a big part of that, and I'm a big fan, and I love One Piece. So I haven't read it in a long time, but I'm much farther ahead of you in the show.
Yeah.
And I know the story.
Yeah, and so for this episode, we're just going to kind of be talking about growing up and like watching One Piece, and then we'll obviously get to just some kind of thoughts on some of our favorite parts of basically the pre-time skip. I'm almost to the time skip and reading. So to start it off, I want to talk about do you remember like when you first came across One Piece? Because I know we watched the four kids dub back in the day.
We did watch.
So what was your first memory of it? Because I know it's kind of weird. Like because I was so much because I'm younger than you. So like
4 years in difference.
Yeah, so I kind of just remember. I always remember knowing kind of like what One Piece and Naruto and Yu Yu Hakusho and Dragon Ball Z. Like because you watched them because you were a little bit older than me. I feel like I just always remembered them. But do you remember a first time watching One Piece at all?
Vaguely, and it was on for kids.
Mm-hmm.
I think I saw it. I know I watched the first episode when it aired officially, and I'm pretty sure it was because another show was promoting it. Like we were watching like Sonic X or something, and they promoted it, and I was like, "What the heck is this?" I want to check this out.
Well, there's a lot of shows that actually like just from commercials back in the day. Like that's why we watched Full Metal Alchemist. Like there's a ton of shows like that we started right at the beginning because of ads.
For sure. And One Piece, it didn't capture me. Like, for me, Naruto is Dragon Ball Z for sure, but Naruto is the thing that like cemented me into an anime fan.
Me as well.
Like Pokemon's considered as anime, Yu-Gi-Oh, Digimon, and then Dragon Ball Z, but for some reason those never felt, I don't know. They just didn't drive. Naruto's the thing that got me into it. But I remember watching One Piece, and I watched it. I think after that first episode, we just kept tuning in every week because then it started airing after whatever we were watching at the time.
Before that, yeah. So we both got to Skypiea the first time that we watched it through. I believe, or we got pretty close to it.
Yeah, and the arc you're on is the Marineford arc.
Yeah, okay.
Is the arc you're on.
Perfect.
I pulled up all the arcs because I can never remember all the names. Because One Piece's arcs are insane because there's some of them are very short.
Well, a lot of them are
long.
really we should be talking about it is sagas, and then there's arcs within the saga. Like the Water 7 saga has multiple parts to it. It has Water 7 arc and its lobby arc, and then the Long Island or whatever arc. But I kind of I always kind of talk about the sagas as like arcs, even though they're technically different. But you also we watched up until, or at least loosely watched up until Skypiea, and then we kind of got out of it because Skypiea was just so much different, or either I don't know if that was still the 4 Kids dub. I don't know how far that dub went.
That's a good question, and I know the 4 Kids just gets hardcore
bad.
anime fans. lose their mind off it. But as a kid, I had no clue that, I mean, like, Sanji wasn't smoking a cigarette, he had, like, a lollipop.
Yeah.
And they had, like, water guns. When I watched that, I had no clue, but I wasn't
Yeah,
that
I mean, we
old.
were pretty young.
But...
I don't know if you remember this, but another thing that kept me, like, thinking about One Piece, because obviously when Naruto came up, I got obsessed with that. But we had, like, a game on the GameCube of One Piece. Do you remember playing that? I can't remember the exact name of it. But it was, like, we would fight in, like, where Arlong Park or whatever.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
That game was like so much fun.
It was like a...
It's a little battle game.
Yeah. It was like a kid's version for One Piece
I bet you
of Mortal Kombat. Like, you were in well, except it wasn't just 2D like that, where you were just moving on one platform. You were able to move around a little area, and you'd hit, like, barrels, too, that would get food, and you would get special attacks. Yeah, we still have it somewhere. Yeah,
that game, I remember, kind of kept me thinking about One Piece, even though Naruto was kind of the thing that I focused on. But then as I got older... I hadn't really returned to One Piece, but then when did you go back and catch up to it and watch the actual dub?
To answer your first question, which I don't think I actually fully did, I remember finishing Skypiea as a kid. I remember seeing him beat the lightning guy.
Eneru?
Yeah. And guys, I haven't watched. I mean,
the beginning.
I read it as a kid, watched it as a kid. And then kind of just fell off entirely, moved on to some other stuff, and then came back to One Piece, which would lead into your question. I watched it 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. I just decided I'm going to start from the beginning, and I'm going to catch up to where they're at in the sub. So I watched up to where the dub was, which they had just a few episodes left in the arc with Brook, where Brook joins the crew.
So Thriller arc.
Yep, and then I watched everything else in the sub, and I watched a few episodes maybe a few weeks ago, and just watch it now periodically as I'm catching up. But I'm not that far. I thought I was very far behind, but then I looked at
Do you know what arc you're in? Just like
I don't know the name of it, but I know what's happening. I don't know if you want me to say because I don't want to spoil it for you.
Not necessarily, but if you can figure out what the arc name is,
sure.
That'd be interesting. But I also feel like when we were younger, you were a little more into One Piece than I was.
Probably.
And I think that probably played a part in you revisiting it. Because I did revisit it probably around the time where you were watching it. I was like, man, I should get back and watch it. And I've talked about this a lot in my One Piece vlog. And I got all the way up to Skypiea again, and I just stopped. It's this weird thing where, like, for some reason I could never get past Skypiea, even though I think that arc is actually really good, and I really like the end fight with him and Eneru, or however you pronounce his name. But there's also something funny where that we've kind of talked about a little bit of you. So when you caught up to it, because you got super into it, and then you talked to me about it, and you were like, are you ever gonna, you're not ever gonna necessarily catch up. And I was like,
I got like the 2 arcs after the war you're at. 2 arcs after the time skip when I did this.
Yeah. And you were like, and I was like, well, I don't think I'm gonna, even if I do, you can still tell me about it because you seem super hyped. And then you literally told me everything. Like, you spoiled everything. And that was like 4 or 5 years ago, like, because it was when you caught up to it. And I don't like remember, as I'm reading, there was a few things that I remembered from where I'm at. I remember you talking about Law and how much you're obsessed with Law.
Law is such a great character they added, because I remember telling you how his powers were, like, everything, and you were like, sounds like a cool character.
Yeah, and all I remember is what he looks like. I still don't know what his power is, and because they introduce him at the beginning of this war where they're at I can't remember what the name of that little arc is, but when he's introduced right before Luffy punches one of the high up
celestial dragons.
Yeah.
That's that name. But.
Yeah, it's funny that you spoiled that for me, but like I don't remember anything about that. And then the only other thing I specifically remembered was you talking about Ace and Blackbeard fighting and blowing up an island.
Yeah.
And so I remember like
cool
waiting.
fight.
Yeah, I remember waiting to get to that because that happens actually in the manga. They show that right after. It's either right after Water. I think it's right after Water 7, right before Thriller Bark. Is they actually show that. And then they go through Thriller Bark, and then they come out of it.
They don't show the whole fight.
No, they don't.
Which was a bummer, because that seemed like such an epic fight. They just show you the big flames and the darkness hitting each other.
But I remember waiting for that, and then as I'm reading things, I kind of be like, I'll remember, like Sanji, I mean, this is kind of, like, this isn't even, it's in, like, the beginning panels for every chapter of like Sanji like running away for, like however the extended period of time for him getting trained. So I just kind of like remember little things like that, but it's funny that you literally spoiled everything for me.
I spoiled it all.
It's so funny, but
I left off to where I was at the time.
But I actually don't really remember that much about it, like from you spoiling it, which is funny. And it's almost motivation. Like when I was reading Water 7, I was like...
Listen to me, but...
I know, I wasn't listening enough clearly. But it's almost motivation to be like, I want to get to that fight between Blackbeard and Ace. Like, I want to get to things. And there's some spoilers that are... Like, One Piece is obviously is just so popular that... Like, I don't know if this happened when you were catching back up to it. But did you know any spoilers about kind of what happens with... in the future, because I knew about the Rob Lucci fight between him, and I'd actually seen clips of it before, and I also, I actually haven't even gotten there reading, but I know Ace's fate. Like, I've just seen that, and I've known about that for years.
Oh, did I know what the result of the war was
there,
going to be?
Or did you know any spoilers for anything?
I didn't know anything. The person, a friend of ours got me to rewatch it, who's I tell people this, like, I'm a big anime fan, but I'm not... There's plenty of more I don't watch. I'm not in...
Yeah.
You're probably
not... At least right now, you probably don't watch quite as many anime as I do.
No. You definitely watch more, and half the reason I watch so many of them is because of you, but...
Yeah, I'm always suggesting
and it's not that I run a movie TV channel on on YouTube. I'm trying to watch so much stuff that sometimes it's hard to watch. But with One Piece, it was a friend of ours who just kept talking about how great these upcoming arcs were at the time, and I just had a whole summer off. There wasn't a whole lot at the time, and I was like, I'm just gonna binge start to finish. And it took me like 5 months to finally catch up and the arc I'm on is I'm like 2 episodes into the Whole Cake Island arc.
Okay, that's kind of where I thought you might be.
Because I know what happens in the Wano Country arc, which is the one they just ended on. For the anime, I know some of the stuff that happens, but when I started, I told him, do not spoil anything for me, and I decided not to tell anyone I knew was an anime fan, but honestly, most of our friends aren't as
that big, especially into One Piece. Wouldn't be something they watch.
Because he's caught up, but he's probably the only one that we hang out with pretty consistently, or did. So I just didn't really tell anybody I was watching it, because that way if you don't tell them you're watching, then they're not going to spoil anything.
Yeah.
But I had no clue, and that arc is awesome. But I did watch it. I had to watch it, so there was a lot of filler that gets thrown in there, and there's a lot of some other stuff. But that's
another
cool.
thing is like catching up, and I'm reading the manga, catching up, watching it. Like, even when I got to Skypiea, there's just so much... Like, they extend everything, and so that would make it even harder to catch up to it.
Do you know what volume you're on?
I'm on volume... I just finished volume 57.
Volume 57.
And I think there's, like, they're in the, like, 93 to 96 is somewhere where it's currently at. They're getting very close to the chapter 1000. I think 982 or 83 chapters have been released right now on the where you can go and read it on the Shonen Jump app. So my kind of goal right now is to catch up by the time they get to the 1000th chapter, because that's just going to be a cool thing. And as I've been more involved in the anime community, like on Twitter and things like that, and talking with AniTubers, it's just so hard to avoid images from One Piece. But it's actually almost like I really don't. I feel like One Piece, it's so long that like there's not that many reveals necessarily that are super, that would spoil my experience of it, because I just like am enjoying the ride. But
it also depends what the spoiler is. Like Ace's thing would probably be a bummer.
Yeah, well, so I know that. I mean, if we're just spoiling the arc, I can kind of talk about what I know about the war. So I know that obviously I know that Ace dies. I don't know who kills him. I don't even know who that guy is yet. I mean, I've seen the image of it, and I don't even know who that guy is.
6 years ago.
Yeah, I don't even know who that guy. I mean, I think I have a guess on who it is, but I don't even remember, and obviously I don't want to go look it back up. But what I did not know is that Ace is Roger's son, and that bomb is awesome. But I kind of want to switch gears because obviously One Piece it is such like this big thing to read, and it can be hard to get into it because there's also just spoilers everywhere. And I would recommend if you're starting from zero, if you like reading manga, to read the manga and then
cut out the filler.
And then if you want to watch the fight between Rob Lucci and Luffy, go do it. Like if there's big moments you want to watch, then you can go watch it. And
when I watch it, I look up what a list of filler, what is filler, what is mostly filler, and then because I love One Piece, but the anime specifically is so bad at doing too long of recaps, too little of the show,
especially in the beginning.
Because they need the book or the manga to get farther, and they need time, but it becomes a problem. So I just do that and fast forward to what I want to watch.
Especially with...
But I should read it. I might do that.
Because there is some low production quality, because I've watched hundreds of episodes of it. There is some runs where like the production quality just isn't that good, and it gets a lot better. I might catch up to it and watch some later.
The animation from the final arc they're on to the first arc is insane. Yeah. I mean, the characters they're designed differently.
Yeah.
I mean, Zoro's so skinny the way he's designed in the beginning.
Oh, yeah,
he's
and they're
just
ripped,
massive. And I get it because it could be an evolution thing. They're training, they're fighting, they're growing. It makes sense. Upgrade. But it's jarring, especially when you watch that. Yeah. When you sit down like I did and you watch from start to finish. It's one moment you'll just sit there and be like, when did they suddenly look so different? Yeah. But it's a great show.
So I'm curious. If you can remember, I kind of want to talk about maybe. Do you have a favorite villain in the pre-Timeskip? And also, do you have like a favorite arc? I'm curious if there's any, because I know it's been a while since you've at least seen the beginning and things like that. But do you have any that kind of stick out to you and that you remember pretty well for like an arc that you loved or specific, like, because everyone kind of loves the Straw Hats, obviously, but was there a villain that stood out to you or a side character or anything like that?
So what I think One Piece, and you and I have talked about this before, I think One Piece is Japan's version of our Game of Thrones, if that kind of makes sense. Like, it's what Game of Thrones felt like in the West when it was really big and popular, obviously before the bad final season. But just especially the way those books are crafted, they're so detailed, they're so political, they're so into it. That's what One Piece is. And that's why I love One Piece, because that story is so massive and there's so much to it. I love the Straw Hat crew. I don't love necessarily every character in the crew, or I don't love like the way they went. Like Usopp went from one of the worst characters to one of the great characters, in my opinion.
He's one of my favorite Straw Hats.
The arc where is it the Rob Lucci arc is what they call it?
It's the Water 7 arc
where they get Frankie and they do all that stuff. That's
some Sniper King.
He gets developed as a character, and it's hard when you do such a big show because you take a while to develop everybody because you need to focus on Luffy so much. Mm-hmm. But for the show as a whole, I think my favorite villain, because of the way they craft it, is probably Blackbeard, because he's got the Thanos thing around him. It's how powerful is he, and you don't even know what. Yeah, because things you don't know. I
barely have been.
You'll learn.
He's not even really that much of a villain right now.
I mean, when you first meet him, you're like, this guy might be an ally to Luffy.
And like he's kind of so he's where I'm at. He's just become a warlord, or actually they're about to renounce him being a warlord because he went to Impel Down. Yeah, and I don't even know what he's doing.
I love that, by the way. I love the way that he. Why is the name of the creator Space
Oda?
Oda, that's right. I was gonna say that, but Oda, the way he crafts not only the pirates but the government. I mean, the idea. I remember this is why I thought it was so, and I still think it's so cool that they hire pirates to
yeah.
be their warlords to protect the people while they're there's a lot of stuff around that, but it's the way he crafts a story is insane, and the fact that he just continuously does it.
And he does it every week. He makes a chapter.
And
that's another
He
crazy
is a
part.
genius that needs to be up there with those, with George R.R. Martin and the fact his comic's about to pass Batman and Superman for the most sold comic.
Yeah,
of all
I think
time.
there's
He's
it will
close.
Almost for sure pass Batman. And then Superman, he might have to go for a while.
Like that.
But still, the fact that it can even be close is an accomplishment. Yeah.
And it's for Anyway, but he just crafts such an amazing story. It's hard not to pick Blackbeard, and I do know more than you do about him, and I might not even know some that people listening know because I'm a couple arcs behind still. But the way he's crafted is so great. And they do a great job of making, like, half the time when I watched the show, I thought Whitebeard is like this feared villain.
Yeah.
But I actually really like Whitebeard a lot, and I don't think he's necessarily. To me,
he's kind of a hero.
Who is the? We know Luffy's our protagonist, but it's not so clear cut that we have one protagonist who's going on one journey to defeat one villain. We have this hero's journey that about every character goes on, and it's so great. But I do like him, Rob Lucci, though, because I know that arc is what changed the game of what One Piece was for me, where I was like, this is serious, because I remember thinking, rewatching it, and even watching it older, going, when are they gonna just be better? Like, Luffy's just doing the same moves, he's just, because he's rubber, he's just
and
doing
then out
that.
of nowhere, they introduced Gear 2
and Gear 2 is
cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I know many more. I know all of his other gears.
Yeah.
And some of his gears, I don't actually love the idea around them.
Yeah.
Personally, I mean, they're fine and the battles are cool, but I don't love the ideas. But Gear 2, I love that idea. I mean, he pumps blood faster. Through his body, and he is that Rob Lucci arc told me that this show is up there to me with Naruto. That if this show can be really serious and really intense and really great with amazing fights. So I'd probably pick them. I mean, all of the villains up to that point. Yeah, like Crocodiles. Crocodile, and as a kid, I just didn't love the Alabasta arc as much as all the other arcs. And same with Skypiea. The villains I thought were interesting, and I like Crocodile more later.
Yeah, I like
Crocodile. Reintroduced, but I just didn't love any of the like they make like Buggy when you first meet him.
Buggy's hilarious.
He's a villain when you first meet him, and you think this guy might be the big antagonist for a while. Now he's a joke. He's comic relief, and he's funny, and I enjoy him a lot. Buggy. But he's not a threat to Luffy anymore. No. He's way beyond, or he's way under how good Luffy is now. And it's just, the way he handles characters is just insane. Yeah. I don't know how that can fit that. I mean, he's as good as George Lucas at what he did in crafting a world. It's insane.
Yeah. And it's another thing, back to your Game of Thrones point, the similarity between it is just, those two worlds are probably the most in-depth. And honestly, I think I think One Piece might have the most in-depth world I've ever experienced. It really is unbelievable, because I'm ahead. I'm 2 arcs back. I have 1,000 questions that I still want answered. There's what are the who are, and again, I could be behind, and some of these could be revealed. But like, what is the people of D? Why are these guys so important? You know this already. Why are they so important? What is Luffy's dad doing? Dragon.
What is he doing?
I want to see more Dragon.
And I want to know why these, what are they called? The hieroglyphs or something? The poneglyphs.
Poneglyphs, yeah.
Those things, what is this unlost history? I want those answers so bad. Mm-hmm. And I have all the faith in Oda to keep it going. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in there.
No worries. And another kind of thing, for me at least, with One Piece is, I think so there has been a couple moments where I'm like, okay, this story is incredible so far. The first, and actually, because I think One Piece is, I mean, I've actually talked about this, and I think one of the reasons it's so enjoyable, even though it's so long, is because it literally is a borderline comedy. like a lot of the times. It's just hilarious.
It is.
And that's something that like other shonens are funny, but none of them handle humor, I think, as well as One Piece. But the moments that stick out to me is still, I think Arlong Park is underrated. It is amazing. And it has some of the best moments in the show.
When he puts the hat on her and she is hurt Luffy. She's backstabbed the crew, but Luffy doesn't give up on his people, and he puts the hat and he just walks off. And their scores are excellent. Mm-hmm. And when that theme comes and all the boys are walking, it's a great.
So that is actually, it's funny that it's so long, and that moment is still one of my favorites so far. But actually, at the end of Skypiea, because I think the beginning of Skypiea arc struggles quite a bit to kind of get you into the characters, but that fight for some reason is one of my favorites.
It's a cool fight,
and just like how it showed me that there's more to One Piece than just goofy characters. And then that's kind of expanded on with Robin and Usopp's development in the Water 7 saga. Mm-hmm. And I think Rob Lucci's a good villain. I was a little underwhelmed with him, actually. And he was actually... you probably haven't seen this video because it just released it like 2 days ago. My review of it, where the reason...
I saw you put it on Twitter, but I did not.
So the reason... So I gave Water 7, the arc, a 9 out of 10. Just to kind of contextualize where I'm thinking of arcs. And the reason it's not like absolutely my favorite arc of all time is because I thought the Rob Lucci Luffy fight was good. I think it makes sense. Like, Lucci's kind of just this guy who follows the Navy and he's a ruthless killer. But I thought there could have been more of their ideologies kind of conflicting and them talking about that. Mm-hmm. And it is the one moment in One Piece, and I'm curious what your thought is on this. I'm not saying that fight's bad, but that's the reason I didn't think it was a slam dunk 10 out of 10. Even though that the choreography and the hype of that fight is probably the biggest I had seen up to that point. But I just thought it could reach further with kind of them having conflicting ideologies. But what I was going to ask is how come... The one question I have is, how come Luffy isn't questioned as a leader at that point from, like, Rob Lucci? Because it randomly, Luffy, he doesn't have that big of a crew, and all of a sudden he loses 2 members of his crew in, like, the same day. Robin and Usopp both leave the crew in the same day. And, like, I just feel like there could have been some development of Luffy, not necessarily changing, but just confirming. Like, you would think Rob Lucci would have called him out and been like, should you really be leading pirates? Like, 2 people just left your crew. Like, what are you doing? I don't know. What do you do you think that was? I mean, I know you haven't seen the arc in a while.
I remember, real quick, just because it popped in my head. What is Rob Lucci and his group?
They're CP9.
CP9, that's what I couldn't remember. They're like a special unit of the military.
Yeah, so they go undercover, and they're assassins, basically. Yeah, that's and Lucci is kind of known as...
And they expand on this more later.
Yeah, like, I think Lucci's character, he's... terrifying. He's a perfect. His design is
the
awesome.
Type that are with animals, correct? Did they eat a fruit that gave them that power?
Yeah,
that's right. And that, again, to talk about Oda, he came up with this idea where you could eat a fruit and it gives you any power.
Yeah, really unique.
But to answer your question, the first thing that came into my mind is when I rewatched it. That arc has one of the best moments in the entire show. And it's when Usopp begs for Luffy to take him back, and Zoro says, I'm going to quit the crew if you bring him back. Yeah. And that moment is awesome. Because I do think you do see a little moment with Luffy where Luffy goes, okay, maybe you're right. I do need to grow up a little bit here. I'm not the same kid I was. But because that thing is amazing. I mean, I can remember it right now. It's one of the best moments in the entire show. 800 episodes, and I can see it clear as day. I mean, the way the lighting is, the way they handle it, or at least in the show. But him saying, you can't just let people walk in willy-nilly. And it's because Zoro did it earlier. Remember, isn't there... Right, it was Zoro. Does somebody else tries to leave or doesn't join right away, and Luffy kind of gets him to finally jump on board, or it might have been just with Nami when backstabbed.
Yeah.
But because it has been a long time since I've seen the early stuff, but he does say something like, you did that earlier and we let it slide then, we can't keep letting it slide. And especially, and he points out, Usopp doesn't add much to us. Like, I get he's a friend and he's an ally, but he doesn't do a whole lot, and you can't just bring him back. And at the end, Luffy Usopp had to prove himself.
Yeah, well, the whole thing was that Usopp said, because that happens after Usopp. So when
they fight first.
They fight first. Yeah. This is after. This is at the end of the arc, and Usopp has great moments. He has the
money moves in there. With the shells.
Yeah, he snipes. He has the big moment where he basically saves Robin, where Frankie is able to uncuff Robin, which I think that's maybe the best moment in the arc. He also calls out to Luffy and takes his mask off, but they say that he has to apologize. Yeah. And so then when he screams, "I'm sorry," and they're both just crying, that moment's awesome. Yeah. So I think Luffy does have some development, but I thought, and it probably is expectations, because I had heard like the legend of the Rob Lucci Luffy fight for years.
I just watched it. I didn't know anything after Skypiea.
Yeah, and so I thought that there was going to be this huge ideological conflict, which I think is at the core of a ton of fights in One Piece, is like every pirate, every person in the Navy has their belief, and they love to talk about it, you know?
That's just a classic trope right there.
But it's one of the best selling points, I think, of the series, is you get these clashing ideologies, which helps build up this really corrupt world. So I just want a little more out of that fight. I'm not saying that fight's bad at all.
At the end of the fight, too, though, Luffy... Gear 2 hurts him.
Yeah,
and so does 3. Toll. I think he learns from that arc later that when he needs to be serious, or his crew will leave him. And they won't respect him. That's a good point. And if he's not strong enough to protect them when it counts, they will, again, leave him, and he needs to get stronger no matter what it costs him. And that arc really is great. I mean, when they burn the Going Merry, it's brutal.
Yeah, so
and
that arc
score when the play's over it is great. It's that arc, I think, is what says we're something different here, and we're trying to be something different, because Oda's not afraid to try. I will say this too, and because we probably have different viewpoints with reading and watching. Yeah. One of my criticisms of the show is they get a little too slapstick, and I think it's because they have to fill airtime, and it's easier to do it with jokes.
Yeah, that's
actually to do a separate, darker story, but it's easier to fill it with jokes. So that's why part of the reason when talking to you and you're reading it, and even just looking at some of the manga, which I haven't looked at full One Piece one in a while.
I mean, he's so brilliant with, and it might just be because in comics you can skip over the slapstick if you're not interested in it. Yeah. Like, because there's moments like where there's an insane amount of comedy in the background of his artwork, and you could literally spend like so much time getting lost in pages. But you could also, like, get pretty quickly through the funny moments of artwork, which I think takes away from it. And I've kind of talked about, I do think, like, for another comparison, the slapstick comedy of, like, Marvel. And I think, like, at best, when Marvel is doing their slapstick great, especially in early Marvel, reaches like what One Piece is consistently doing in the manga, at least. I think it is a little different.
It's
in the
funny
show.
You bring up Marvel because
it's similar type of humor.
Some of the Marvel movies is like specifically with me with like Guardians 2. I've been notorious for this. Yeah. I like the movie enough, but it's like you force people to have a joke.
Yeah.
And One Piece does that, but I don't blame Oda because I think they just need to fill airtime.
Yeah. And I don't think it's like that in the manga. I think in the manga
I bet you it's feels, not at all. I bet you it's very organic.
It always feels natural, and it feels just like Luffy is a funny character, and that's one of the reasons he's such a... And it's one of the reasons why this story's so... I love just spending time with this crew. And so, like, even in chapters where there's not a lot of the plot moving, I don't even care. I would rather just see him hanging out on the merry-go or on the Thousand Merry. Is that what it's called? Sunny, I mean?
Yeah.
The Thousand Sunny.
The Sunny.
Yeah.
They just call it the Sunny in the show.
But the moment that I just got to, I want to talk about, because I think... I mean, One Piece at this point doesn't need to prove itself. I already know how amazing it is. But
you're about to pass Superman in sales. You got nothing to prove.
Yeah.
You're elite.
But for where I'm at, so right after Thriller Bark, the moment where they're on the island and it's right before they all get split up, before Kuma sends them away, right? So when they all send them to the different islands, and then Luffy literally, it's right at the beginning of the war.
Yeah, they do the whole stuff, hurt the celestial dragons.
Yeah, so they show up to the island, they meet all these other young people, they meet Law, Luffy punches the dragon, he meets the first mate on Roger's crew,
and he's
awesome.
Then what a great way for Luffy to
meet him,
learn and grow. You'll see a lot more.
And then one of the admirals shows up, the guy who's like made of light shows up, and he's so funny because he just does it. He's hilarious.
I mean, all the admirals who some you haven't that. Things change after the war. I think it's just obvious that things will change, and so I won't spoil anything, but the admirals before and after the war, I love all of them. The way they're crafted as villains or heroes or both.
Yeah.
It's great.
So, but that moment was very Hunter x Hunter-like. And so one of the things that I've always talked about, what I love about Hunter x Hunter, is how sometimes... in the Chimera Ant arc, I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's a moment where, like, all of a sudden the characters are just completely outmatched. And you get a very similar feeling to that when you realize that, oh my god, they've come so far. Luffy just beat Rob Lucci. Luffy basically beat Moria, who's another 7 warlord. He's beaten 2 warlords in a fight. He's beaten Rob Lucci. And then all of a sudden he's still just not even very strong compared to this admiral and to Kuma. Right? So they have this crazy moment.
I looked up the warlords because I couldn't remember Kuma's name.
Yeah, so Kuma's the big bear guy.
Yeah.
And then Moria is the shadow guy. I think he's kind of funny. He's not that strong.
Love that arc with him
Thriller
getting Brook. I just didn't love that arc. The best part of that arc though is when Kuma says to Zoro, the image watching it was great. I can't imagine how great that image is on the page. It's awesome.
So the of Zoro standing there all bloody.
When Sanji comes around and he's like, "What happened?" and he's just covered in blood, and he said nothing.
Yeah,
nothing happened. The fact that shows how great this crew is, especially and people. I mean, you and I have had these debates all the time. There's a whole thing about people who love protagonists and the people who don't like protagonists in animes. It's so hard not to love Luffy, and it's so hard not to just say Zoro's another main protagonist. He really is. And what he does for Luffy, I mean, those two, that moment is one of the best in the entire show when he says, I'll take all of his pain.
Yeah,
the pain that my captain took, I'll take it. A normal guy, I'll take it.
It's the two images that really stand out, is that image of Zoro, and then there's the iconic image of Sanji in the Skypiea arc, where he's holding a cigarette and he's bloody, and he comes out. Those two images kind of parallel each other because they're both obviously... Oda does a really clever way of showing that Zoro is just at least at this point, barely stronger than Sanji, because the two characters they fight. So they fight the in Water 7 in the side fights. At the end, they do this whole thing where they build up the power scaling of all of the members of CP9 and how Rob Lucci's way stronger, and then there's 2 people behind him, the guy with the big nose and then the other guy who wasn't undercover with them, and they go meet up, and how they're literally their power scales are almost identical, but one of them's a hair stronger, and they have Zoro beat the guy who's a hair stronger.
And I've talked to our buddy who got me to watch it about this, where they're kind of setting that up for these final fights. Yeah. Because he told me, and I've not fact-checked this, so if anybody who's deeper into the world than I am, tell me, but I've been told there's 3 major things left. There's 3 major things left in the story, and then he's ending it. And that's interesting, but it does feel like they're setting up for everybody's big fight, who Zoro will fight, who Sanji will fight. Yeah. And, I love the whole crew, but those
3 in particular.
I prefer Zoro a lot more over Sanji.
Oh, really? I think I like Sanji more, but I feel like that's... actually, I love them both, because I love...
I love them all. Yeah. Really, it's just...
My favorite Straw Hat is actually Robin.
I saw
right now.
most of your video on
Yeah,
that.
I think Robin's
I like
super
Robin.
interesting.
I
think I like them all.
Robin has a great arc early. Though.
Yeah.
She gets a great arc early,
In Water
and then
7.
later she's just kind of
hangs.
does her.
That's kind of what I heard.
But when anytime a Poneglyph shows up, she just loses her mind.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I love that she's an Archaea, and her backstory's good. I mean, all the backstories these characters
Every backstory
These
is
characters make
insane.
you feel bad for a character that Nick's just met, that just ended with the Dressrosa arc. So people know who I'm talking about just saying that. But
because that's
they make you care for
is
a villain.
Is the Flamingo arc.
Yeah, it's still Flamingo.
His
backstory.
I know.
Backstory.
Funny enough, I know his backstory because
it's incredible.
I might be missing
Nazi
a few
Germany.
things.
That's what his backstory is. It's insane.
So if we ever get the goat,
you got to bring me back on when you catch up.
Yeah, if we ever get one of the AniTuber goats to watch this episode, Super Eye Patch Wolf, he technically spoiled the Doflamingo's backstory.
It's your fault. You should watch the video.
No, I honestly, it's part of the reason I keep watching is because when you hear about it, it's like I need to
Builds
catch
up the
up.
anticipation.
But so back to the moment that I was talking about in the comparison to Hunter x Hunter, and you kind of mentioned it a little bit with the protagonist. So one of the things that Hunter x Hunter is so cool about is that in the beginning it's focused on Gon, and he's the main. And it's kind of through his perspective, and then it's kind of through his and Kaluuya's perspective.
It kind of just becomes,
and then it becomes about everybody.
Yeah.
And one of the cool things about that is everyone kind of feels like a main character, specifically in the York New arc.
Yeah.
And then in the Chimera
in that
Ant
show,
arc.
it just feels like we're following like Gon's like the utility we're using to get through the story compared to a main like he's not like Frodo. You know, he's not the main guy. Or Luke. It's not his journey.
Yeah, and
it's
so
everybody's journey.
And he starts out with it that way, especially in the first few episodes,
because
it's his.
To. Oda did the same thing with.
But
Luffy.
with Luffy, it feels like obviously he's still the main character, but for such a large portion of the show, it feels like every Straw Hat is a main character.
For sure.
And then all of a sudden, this has probably been talked about a ton. Oda just sends everyone away, and it's only focused on Luffy, and now he's on his own. And it's one of the most ballsy things I feel like I've ever seen. For him to be this far into it, to be 57 volumes, like in comparison to Naruto, that's like when he's fighting Pain, if not after that. I guess it happens.
The difference is too, though, is Naruto and Sasuke from day one to the last episode are important, and Boruto sucks. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah,
I can't stand it.
But for him to do that so late in the run and to just switch it up completely is so awesome. And it's cool because it's like all of a sudden it started out and it felt like there was like these for a while it was the 3 protagonists and the 4 and then 7 protagonists. And obviously everyone knows that like Brooks and Frankie aren't really protagonists, but they feel like it almost.
I like Brooke. He's just my least favorite of the crew.
I don't even know who my least favorite is.
Frankie, I loved at first, and then and you'll see after Timeskip, I was like, do I like him still? And I do. But I do like him quite a bit. But it's interesting.
But that moment, I think this is building up. So I would say before this arc, because I'm not done this saga, I would say Water 7 is the best that I've read so far, even though I think Alabasta, Skypiea, and Arlong Park are kind of
I think so.
They're all good.
Is the best.
But this war, Impel Down, is another reason why this show has such great payoff. Is like now I feel like I'm finally getting to the point where not only is Luffy's actions actually have consequences, like he can't just beat up Crocodile and then just move on with his day. And people are going to come after him, and it just feels like the pacing in this arc has just gone up exponentially, and all these people that we've kind of seen for their one little arc and then we don't see again are all coming back together, and it's really fleshing out that like it's always been an in-depth world, but it even makes it feel more in-depth now that everyone's kind of coming together. Alliances are changing. It's very Hunter x Hunter like.
His story is so relevant to today. Not only our history, but just the world history, but today, specifically here in the West, but the world as a whole. Like he tackles capitalism, communism. He's hitting so many themes, and he does it in just such a Luffy goes from he hits a celestial dragon because Luffy saw that this guy's just a jerk. This guy's not
He's
a good
just
guy.
racist because he shot a fish.
Luffy's,
we fought, Hachi? Is that his name?
Yeah.
The fish.
Yes.
Guy from Arlong Park. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. He doesn't understand at the time that the reason people freak out, and it's because in their world, these guys are the power.
Yeah.
They're the government. And this is really, you root for the pirates because the pirates are about being free. And the government is saying, no, we're going to control you. But in reality, their control is horrible. It's a lot of Nazi Germany, that kind of stuff. But it's so good. And and you brought up Ace, that you don't know how it happens, but you know what does happen.
Yeah, like I'm not really sure who the guy is.
That moment changes the entire narrative of the show. I mean, it doesn't change. He still wants to find One Piece and become king. But the way Luffy acts, and what happens after that, and the way the crew acts, and the way the world acts after that is so out of this world. And I lost my train of thought because I just got too into it.
The thing I didn't know, I never really realized that Whitebeard wants Ace to take over for him.
Yeah.
Like you kind of know that because he's pretty high up there in his crew. But like you still kind of think
he's
that
one of
like
his first mate. He's not his
he's not his
number
right-hand
2, but
man.
He's one of his generals.
Yeah, he's one of the captains.
And he's the son of his best friend.
Yeah. But also I don't even think I technically should know that yet. That Whitebeard and Roger are friends.
So have you seen that flashback?
No.
Okay.
So I kind of knew that they were on better terms than the rest of the world realizes.
Okay. There's a really cool flashback you'll get to.
But I
gotten
haven't gotten
just
to that.
Talk, and it's glorious.
I'm very excited for that. So I haven't gotten there yet, but I didn't really realize that he wanted Ace to become the next king of the pirates, really. Which is making me sad because obviously I know what's gonna happen. But yeah, I just think the world and how that moment is what, like, I knew really from Arlong Park, from that moment, it's like, okay, One Piece is awesome, and it's gonna this world keeps getting better, and there's great moments, and you see it in Water 7, you see it, I think, at the end of Skypiea, I think you see it with Crocodile.
Well, there's a lot of great, and
you see it in Thriller Bark with that Zoro moment.
There are things about One Piece that I critique and don't love.
Well, yeah, I don't.
But this story is so massive overall. I mean, sometimes they bring back characters that I don't want them to bring back, and then I end up loving them. Sometimes they can do the anime thing where one cool thing one guy gets, then suddenly everybody gets, or they just bring in new characters to, like right now, and this might tick off a lot of people, I won't spoil anything, they do bring in a new character that, for me, right now, just takes the place of an old character instead of like he's not his own, this new character. It's hard to not talk about it fully, but I'm hoping once I read and catch up that it'll slowly change my opinion on it.
That's also another thing that happened, because obviously I had tried to watch it multiple times since I was a kid, so when I thought of the Straw Hats, I thought of the crew up to before Frankie is there. Mm-hmm. Right? That was kind of my idea of the crew.
Nami, Robin, Chopper, Sanji,
Usopp.
Zoro,
yeah, Luffy. That was kind of my image of them. And so when Frankie was first introduced, because I knew Frankie was going to join the crew, I knew there was a guy named Frankie, I was like, I don't think I'm going to like him. And then
Frankie's
and then 10 chapters later or whatever, I'm like, I cannot wait for Frankie to join the crew.
Just wait till the skip. What happens to
and
Frankie?
I also think I know who the next person to join is. I think I've also gotten that. I think I've seen an image of him, and I just put 2 and 2 together. After Brooks. I think, and I can just say my guess, and I won't look at you so I don't get spoiled 100%, but I'm pretty sure the guy, my guess is that, I can't remember his name, he's the fish dude. I think the fish dude joins the crew, but you guys can troll me in the comments, because I'm not sure.
Troll him.
But I think that's the guy who joins X, but I'm not sure, so I'm kind of like looking for any signal I can to see if he like really likes Luffy and wants to join.
It's so interesting.
He's awesome though. He is so powerful. Jimby.
I think is how you say it. But he's
awesome.
He's a warlord, or was.
He just got renounced because he didn't. He was like, I'm not gonna fight this pointless war.
Cool. He's cool.
Yeah.
And after the end of this arc, him and Luffy have some very good conversations.
Yeah.
That's what, and again, that's the thing about the comparison to Game of Thrones is the thing you love when that world is so big are then those small human moments where it's two people talking about something.
Yeah.
And One Piece does, it's the Zoro Luffy talk. It's just, those moments are so great. It's just, the show is absolutely fantastic. And I want you to catch up because now I want to, now you're hyping me up to want to finish it and get going. But it's, if you have something else to take us in a direction, I've got something I want to bring up unless you want to go in a specific direction.
You say your thing.
One of the biggest things I want so bad is I want to see how powerful Shanks is. Because we still haven't seen it, unless I'm my few things behind. But I want it so bad.
I feel like I think where they're at in the manga, I don't really know a lot, but I think I could be wrong, but I think there's something going on with Shanks right now in the manga.
I know Shanks does some stuff, but I don't believe... Because I
haven't seen him. I don't even know what's going on with Shanks right now, because
from what I was told...
I don't know what he's doing.
This was before I fully caught up. I was told that the show was going to end with him just taking out the warlords. Or Luffy fighting them, not necessarily, but Luffy was going to go against the warlord. Or not the warlords, the
emperors?
Is that what they're called? The four emperors of the sea?
They just
get labeled the top pirates. It's Big Mom, Kaido, Shanks and Whitebeard.
Right, at least right now. I don't know if that changes. Because,
it's... Things will happen, and it's supposed to be Luffy going, and it's supposed to end with Luffy, because eventually they have to fight to become king. Another thing I wanted to point out is that at the end of this arc, a character does something that not only changes it for Luffy, but changes the entire course of the world.
Wow!
And it's like
you're getting me so hyped right now.
It's a moment, because the show starts with the moment that riled everybody up was the execution of Roger, and he said,
"I know
I've hidden my treasure.
Yeah."
Go find One Piece. Go search for the One Piece. And that sparks the pirate generation.
Yeah.
Somebody does something at the end of this war that sparks the new generation and the next wave to just get even bigger. And it's awesome. And it changes how the show goes.
It's crazy.
Because like the arc right after the time skip, I actually don't love that arc either of all the new arcs. But you get to see the characters back, what they've been doing over 2 years, and just everything. But the show changes because we've met some of these young guys like Law, and there's like 7 of them who you the
meet.
One guy who does the magnet stuff is really cool.
And there's like
they do more in arcs. I know they're involved more with arcs I'm not into yet, but like those guys become big hitters after this because of what happens with one thing. Not just what happens to Ace, but just what happens at the end of the war.
Yeah,
and
well, I'm sure. I mean, they've talked about it a lot as well. With everyone has been saying this is going to change the balance of the world. Flamingo said that he was like,
it does.
He was like the victor.
I might rewatch it now.
Yeah, the victor of this fight is justice.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's one of my favorite things is like, even though this story is light, it's funny, there is so many different ideologies on just how the world works, what, like, even justice is, things like that, that I think really, it's a lot, like, this is going to sound stupid, it's like almost deeper than you would think at first glance.
There's endless layers to One Piece.
Yeah.
There's endless layers.
So this was the question that I was gonna ask, and this is gonna see. I'm curious what your favorite. So I'm gonna say the warlords. I'll just tell you who the warlords are, so you don't forget. Because
I had just looked them up actually.
The ones where I'm at right now, but I'm curious who your. Should we like rank the warlords real quick of our favorite to least favorite? Because I love the warlords. You will have to tell me
because I'm looking up guys who get taken over. After.
So the warlords that I'm at right now, or we'll do them. So. Moria was a warlord.
Yeah, it's the ghost guy.
It's
Bo Hancock.
She's hilarious.
Yeah, her
the little thing with her and Luffy's
it's the one guy that doesn't want me. I want him.
It's the funniest thing ever when Luffy shows up, and he couldn't even imagine sleeping with a girl. It's never crossed his mind.
Luffy wants meat, and he wants to be the king, and that's all that matters.
So it's Hancock, Moria, Kuma, Mihawk.
Yep.
Flamingo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Doflamingo.
And then I guess let's not do right now it's like it was Blackbeard and Jinbei or however you pronounce it. But let's not do Blackbeard because I feel like I know so much little about him. Let's do.
Isn't Crocodile one at that time?
He used to be, but let's do Crocodile as one.
Okay, I thought
Crocodile
got started.
He got renounced after Alabasta.
Yep.
But let's do Crocodile and because Blackbeard replaces Crocodile.
Yeah.
And then let's do Jinbei or Jimbel or however you pronounce it. Jinbei,
yeah.
Let's do those 7. So no Blackbeard because I know Blackbeard's gonna probably be your top. But let's rank them or let's just talk about like who's your favorite.
Blackbeard out.
Yeah, basically it's the warlords at the beginning of the series. So it's Crocodile, Jinbei, Mihawk, Flamingo, Moria, Kuma, Hancock.
So
let's start with least favorite.
Okay, so my least favorite is Ghost Guy.
Moria.
It just didn't gravitate to his arc as much, another great thing about the show. What other show are you gonna say to somebody? I've got androids, zombies, pirates, normal people. A guy fights with 3 swords. Some guy will just kick.
Yeah.
Like I'll give you every power on the planet.
Yeah.
One guy just has a slingshot.
One guy's just a condom. Luffy's just a condom.
But anyway, so I would give him the lowest one just because I just never was drawn to his arc as much or anything like that. Let's see. Who else do I got here? And then probably Jinbei, since we've got him here. But I love him as a character, but as a warlord, if I'm going to rank him. I would probably next go... Who do I have? Who are the 4 I have left? Because you took Blackbeard out, right?
You got 5 left.
So I've got Crocodile, Bo Hancock, Doflamingo. Who are the other 2 I'm missing?
Mihawk and
Kuma. I would go Bo Hancock next.
Okay.
I like her, and I like her.
I mean, you know a lot more about some of these guys.
That's why my number 1 will be my number 1.
Yeah.
I would next. Actually, I think I'd go Crocodile and then Bo Hancock. Those 2 are pretty close, though.
Okay.
Crocodile, I always just thought was a fine character.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily.
I actually like him a little bit more now. I think he's got. And
One Piece does an incredible job at bringing. They bring a character back in the Dressrosa arc that I never enjoyed for the little bit you get to see him. One of the best characters.
Whoa, that
I mean,
there's
just arc after arc after arc that these guys get. So the 3 I've got left are Doflamingo, Kuma, and Mihawk. I would go Kuma next. And I think Kuma's really interesting. They do something with him later that I think kind of changes the interesting part of him. Yeah. Do you know what I'm talking about? They already did it, didn't they?
Well, no, not quite yet. I'll tell you.
He mentions it, though. Doesn't he say what's going to happen to him?
Kind of. I'll tell you where I'm at with Kuma.
And then it'll be Mihawk 2 and then Doflamingo 1. But Doflamingo's 1 because I know everything about him. Yeah. And it just makes him fleshed out. Sense. And I have Mihawk 2 because Mihawk still just does the same thing. He shows up, he's intimidating, and all he has to do is do one big slash, and everybody's out of the way. Like, he doesn't... I mean, he does have a little kind of... He's got a couple fights with people that are a little more intricate, but I want to see him...
He just fought Luffy for a second where I'm at. Is him and Luffy fight for a chapter.
Yeah, but they still don't do a whole
No, they don't.
Because he's that powerful. I want to see, like, when eventually him and Zoro are going to go toe-to-toe. Yeah. And, which is going to be interesting for those who know post-Timeskip. But his power, I want to see really what this guy can do. When he's pushed to the brink. And because his whole thing since the beginning is him and Shanks. Mm-hmm. And that they're best friends, but that he also, they're rivals. Yeah. He's constantly challenging and fighting him. It's Mike Guy and
yeah. I mean, it's also kind of what would have happened if Ace would have continued on between Ace and Luffy. Like if Ace ever succeeded Whitebeard, him and Luffy would have had to fight.
They were raised together like the 2 boys were. Yeah, but not that's Buggy and Shanks.
Yeah, I know. That's so funny. Yeah, Buggy's hilarious in the War Arc right now. But so for my rankings, I think that makes sense. Flamingo will probably be a hair lower on my list, but My least favorite right now would probably be Jinbe, just because I don't know enough about him, but that also tells you how freaking awesome
he's a cool character.
The warlords are.
He's a cool character.
And then I enjoyed Moria. I thought he was funny. I think he has a really cool power, and I think the Thriller Bark arc is funny, and it's pretty short.
I just didn't know as much.
I mean, it's a pretty quick read too. It's like 5 volumes. So Moria is I'd put him second. I think he's interesting, and then Crocodile. Well, actually, I'll get to this in a second. So I think those 3 are all good, but I don't think they're like insane. And then next would be Kuma. And Kuma, when he was first introduced at the end of Thriller Bark, is when he shows up and he does the thing to Zoro. And I was like, this guy, I hate this guy. He's awesome. So strong. And
but
then
it's just the way it's the way he acts. He's like a religious crazy nut.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that's the comparison with how he acts.
Yeah.
When you first meet him, and I loved that about.
He just holds it like the Bible, basically.
Yeah, he's got his values and what he believes, and that's why he's doing it.
But he hasn't. So I don't really know his values at all. He doesn't really talk at all yet.
No, he
said like 5 words.
Yeah, and it doesn't change much.
Yeah,
but when you dive into
so all I know about him, and I think I know what you're talking about, and why I might like him more, is when he shows up again, when he sends everybody off. One, he talks to. I want to know what he said to Roger's first mate. He like mentions Silvers. Is that his name?
Oh, the guy who trains Luffy, Rayling Silver or something like
Trains Luffy?
No.
What is that about? Is that a spoiler?
I'm sorry. I did spoil that.
Oh, you're alright.
Everybody listening knows. I'm sorry. I did spoil it.
He trains Luffy!
Rayling Silver.
Yeah, so he says something to it, but then we also meet Roger's pal, the person who helps them break out of Impel Down.
Yeah.
And he, like, sees Kuma at the fight, and there's, like, a million Kumas now. Is that the thing you were talking about? He kind of sold his soul or whatever. Like, he's not, like, really a human anymore. He doesn't think on his own.
They, like, clone him and create android versions of him.
So there's tons of him, but he's there, or he hints, and he's like, you used to hate the Navy. But he's the one warlord who does anything the Navy says. So I'm sure there's a big story there that I don't know yet that's been hinted at.
Yeah.
So, but right now, where he's at, he has a cool design. He's interesting because it's like, why did he send them all to places that would benefit all the Straw Hats? Right? He knew where he was sending Luffy. He knew where he was sending all these guys.
Where does he send Luffy again?
He sends them to
Hancock. That's right. Okay.
With the island of girls, and
I just couldn't for some reason remember where he sent Luffy, but I remember where everybody else goes.
Yeah, and I kind of want to talk about that. Plays into something else that we'll talk about in a second. And so and then it's probably Hancock. I think she's funny, and she's we've seen more of her, I think. And then it would be Flamingo because of the things I know about him. But even where he's introduced at in the manga, like you don't really realize when you see images of him online how, like, he's huge. Like, he's not as big as Moria.
He's all hunched over.
Yeah, he's super long. He's not as big as Moria and Kuma, but when he stands next to Hancock and Mihawk, he towers over. He's awesome. And he's just hinting at some cool things.
The show, One Piece does something really well that I think like My Hero Academia does really well, where they make something that doesn't seem like this would be a cool power at all extremely interesting.
Yeah.
Work really well.
Yeah.
Because with his power specifically, you're like, when I first saw it, I was like, I don't want to spoil it because I don't know if you've seen
I don't know his power.
But when you see his power, I remember the first time I was like, is this that lethal? Yeah. Like, I think of 4 things I could do with this. And then you watch his entire arc, and this guy's insane, and he can do all this stuff. And that's one of the great things about Oda and what he does.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is like talking about My Hero for a second. The best part of My Hero is when you see Mirio's power and see the unique powers be used in interesting ways.
Handle them like they do,
and that's
inspired
like,
from One Piece.
Yeah, that's like One Piece on steroids. That's everyone.
Yes.
There's there's not like Luffy is rubber. He's not a god like
and that
Midoriya
was the problem
is.
I had was, what is Luffy ever going to do more? But the idea that he can pump his blood faster to increase
would
his
never have
strength
crossed
and
my
speed.
mind, but it's interesting.
Yeah, and it won't hurt. You know, his body can handle it because it's made of rubber.
Yeah. And then my favorite warlord's Mihawk. Partially because when I grew up, he was my favorite character because he was introduced for that one episode, and I'm a sucker for a guy. Any guy who uses swords.
He's on a tiny little boat with a giant cross on his back that's a sword.
Yeah.
And he uses one movement, and 5 ships erupt.
And what's so interesting about him, and it's like, what is he looking for? And like, even in this arc right now, it seems like he's more willing to help out the Navy more than other warlords. Like, some of the warlords just don't even care about the Navy. It's just so they're off their back.
He's just doing whatever he wants.
Yeah, and it's like, he never talks. He doesn't have a crew that I've seen. He just hangs out by himself.
His little boat
and
with
he's
candles.
insanely strong, and I just want to know so much more about him. He has a great design.
You get a tiny bit, not a lot, but you get a little bit.
So after the time skip is my guess.
Like a little bit, yeah.
So, but another thing that I think is funny about the warlords, and it plays into hockey. So you told me about hockey, and I vaguely know some things about it. I've been waiting to get to hockey. First off, I didn't know that hockey was introduced before the time skip. I always thought it was
introduced.
So it's introduced. Actually, at the end of the Water 7 arc, Shanks shows up to Whitebeard's ship and knocks out a ton of people, and they're like, why is he using his hockey right now that much? And it's just going.
There's a moment because he wants to talk to Whitebeard.
Yeah.
And some of the older guys in the crew were like, I would leave.
Yeah.
And then they just fall over because they can't handle it. And then the other top guys are fine. But,
yeah.
And I love Whitebeard's Phoenix boy. I can't remember his name, but he's great. I love his character.
I think I'm going to obviously be learning a lot more about him. But then also, like, when Luffy shows up to the Hancock's, the island with all the women, and they all of them know how to use hockey, and they're like, the one girl like shoots an arrow at Luffy, and he's like, how does this thing hurt me? And she's like, hockey. And she's like, you don't know how to use hockey? And he's like, yeah, like I've never
part of what
heard
they
of it.
talk about, though,
it's kind of cool that they're using it. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's like they're using hockey without knowing it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I'm not going to spoil anything, it's kind of like Nen from Hunter x Hunter, but the difference is Nen can be adapted and become as strong as you want it to be. This is like
You're
something that if you have it, you know, it helps to fight those who also have it. It's not necessarily like a tool to put you above, but it's a tool to match you where then your individual strength, rubber might put you above.
Interesting, yeah. So I don't really know that much about it. But the one thing that I was curious about, and I don't know if it's explained better or if it makes sense when I know everything about hockey, but why in the world can Crocodile not use hockey? Like, how is Crocodile a warlord, and Luffy's able to beat him, and then Luffy meets Kuma, and Kuma just wrecks him immediately. Like, I feel like Crocodile should be way stronger than he actually is. Like, that's the one thing that I'm confused about.
Enough to remember, but you might
is like how does Crocodile and Moria?
Not every character has the ability of hockey, though.
Interesting.
It's only some characters.
Yeah, so that's just the one interesting thing about them.
There's I think it's 3. There's 3 ways to use hockey. And some can only do 1, some can do all 3, some can only do 2.
Interesting.
So it just depends.
So I'm excited to learn more about that. But yeah, any last thoughts on One Piece, on the pre-time skip?
I mean, the show is just incredible. It's just the depth of the show is insane, and it's so in depth that when they introduce something like hockey, you don't feel it is refreshing. You don't feel like, what is there? You know, it's not Dragon Ball Super where we just got a new level and a new hair
every day.
And I love Dragon Ball, but it's just, you know, it's just not that. It's not that. It's a real refreshing way to change the characters with new power and the way they handle it. And so One Piece makes it where when you do get kind of drugged down by an arc you do maybe not love as much, or you get this, the characters or the next thing that happens is so interesting that it pulls you right back in. I mean,
actually, there's a perfect example of that is the little arc. So at the beginning of the Water 7 saga, there's the little filler arc of the Long Island where they're on this island and everyone's like stretched out, and this crew shows up and is like, you probably won't even remember it because it's literally like a volume, maybe 2 volumes.
Maybe it never got to the anime. Maybe I just skipped.
I'm sure it did because it has a big moment after it.
Oh.
It leads directly into Water 7. It's part of the saga.
Oh.
And it's the island they visit. They come back down, and it's the first island they visit before they go to Water 7. And it's the first time. It's when Admiral is it Okiji, the ice freeze guy. Who's connected to Robin when he's introduced. So you have this little filler that I think does a few cool things. But it's like this dumb little thing where this dumb pirate crew gets them into a game and then manipulates the game and tries to.
I do remember it.
And then it's like, okay, whatever. I just kind of want to get past this because I know Water 7's coming up. And then right at the end of it, they just drop a bomb and this one insanely powerful guy who, you know, if he wanted to kill them all right there, he easily could
take them out.
So easily, because he's insane and he barely has fought in the war. He just he froze like a tidal wave or whatever that Whitebeard sent, and you know that he is so powerful. But it's like things like that. It's like if there's any if there's any lull, it always is followed up by something crazy.
That's another theme of just the show, though, and it's a theme that anime kind of tends to just do, which is just hope and dreams, like what your dream is and what you'll do to achieve that dream. One Piece takes it to a point where a character like that sees young kids and says, I'm not crushing these guys' dreams. Yeah. Because I've been there, and that's what it is. I mean, everybody has a dream of something, and they always say it that way. This is my dream. It's his dream to find One Piece. Sanji wants to find the East Blue that he's never seen, which is the best fish to catch or whatever. Like Nami, they all have their own dreams that are tailored to them. Yeah. That all just happen to be along with Luffy's for this ride, and that's what the show does so well. And really, the more we've talked about it, the more I really think about it. This show is probably the most in-depth, best detailed, great story. Yeah. Like, I mean, you and I both, but just huge Star Wars fans. And I think George Lucas is an absolute master storyteller. But the stories we keep getting are one hero doing one journey, doing the same thing. But if you want Game of Thrones mixed in a huge world that will give you everything you can imagine, powers you've never thought of, ideas you've never thought of, all this stuff, it's One Piece. I mean, Oda's a genius. He is genius.
And the fact that he does it every week. Every week he makes a new chapter.
The question
that blows my mind.
I want to sit down and talk to him and say, "What is this?" Because we had this conversation with Attack on Titan. Like, did he? Because when you rewatch Attack on Titan, how much did he actually know? Yeah. And what did you add while you were writing? Yeah. With him, I mean, there's moments where you go, he had to have added this, and this later. But then you also go, well, he introduced this guy super early that I forgot
Hancock
this power.
Hancock, there was, because, you know, when you read the manga, there's these little questionnaire sections at the end of every chapter. And he introduced Hancock really early where he said that Shonen Jump was like, hey, put for future villains as like a teaser thing for this one image. And he puts a picture of Hancock. This was super early on. As a villain? Well, maybe as a characters down the road, I think. Oh, sure. Not necessarily a villain. Sure. But Hancock that's the first time you see Hancock is like in 2001 or whatever, like really early on. And then Hancock doesn't show up until, you know, Hancock's introduced in volume 3 and you don't see her. Yeah. And there's a moment where I'm pretty sure that Big Mama was hinted at in Thriller Bark. And Big Mama doesn't come up till Whole Cake Island. Like, I kind of know things like that, but yeah, it's just the depth of the story. Like, obviously there's going to be things that I think Naruto's creator said this about the tournament arc when he was talking to I think there was some quote talking to the My Hero creator saying, whenever you make a tournament arc, double it because it's going to take double the length that you think it's going to take. Like, at least prepare for that much. So there's obviously going to be
drawing it out, you mean?
Yeah, like if you think it's going to take 5 chapters, it's going to take 10 chapters. Okay. And something like that. And so obviously there's going to be moments where something's going to happen differently. I'm sure he doesn't have everything planned out, but I feel like he has such an in-depth view of the world that like he knew from from starting so many of these things.
I wonder if this is like an idea he came up with when he was 8 years old.
Well, I think he's morphed as he got older. I think that's talked about that. He's thought about drawing. He's kind of drawn the One Piece manga since he was little, at least like Pirates.
Yeah.
and it's transformed into
he's
this.
known the ending for years.
Yeah.
I remember reading like 2014 that he was telling like for Make-A-Wishes for terminally ill children that they just wanted to know, that was their Make-A-Wish. I want to know how One Piece ends.
Yeah.
And he would go and just tell them the whole story. So he definitely has the story. I mean, for a long time I didn't like that he was bringing characters back all the time. It was like, oh my gosh, Buggy's back?
Yeah, but I think it works well for the depth of the world.
It does. No, I changed my tune, but there were times I was like, I thought Luffy killed Crocodile. Like, I thought that, but then you realize that he always intended to have a protagonist that doesn't kill people.
And
then those characters come back, and then they assist Luffy.
Yeah, and he says that in that, like, his grandma said, don't say kill, it doesn't sound good, or something like that when he first started drawing manga. And so, like, when Luffy goes to see Crocodile, he doesn't say, I'm gonna kill you, he says, I'm gonna kick your butt, and things like that.
Yeah.
And that has led into the world building of, like, the world feels so in depth over this period of time, because it makes sense. Alliances change, people are against someone, and then they're allies, and
that's what happens in the real world.
Perfectly shown in Impel Down, and when they break out of that, which is insane. But yeah, I think...
Real quick.
Yeah.
That also makes, when death happens...
hit harder.
It's impactful.
Yeah.
Because it's, Game of Thrones got so popular for, we're killing off so many characters that you think are main, and then when we don't kill off anyone, you're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
We're not going to kill anyone, so when we actually do...
Yeah.
This is going to send shockwaves for the entire world of One Piece, which is what happens.
Well, and I think that also goes to when death is good in any form of media, it's death with a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And Game of Thrones has a lot of death, but for the most part, it's all death with a purpose.
Yeah.
Show-wise,
obviously,
a character
go a different direction.
Yeah, but like Ned does something wrong, the consequences is his head.
Yeah.
Right? Consequences lead to death, and it's the same thing in this where it's like there's death. I mean, I haven't really gotten to any deaths, but I'm sure death
for a purpose.
The
Ace one,
is
coming in some form.
Very important.
So,
but I think that is a good place to kind of leave off. One Piece is incredible.
Clearly, we can keep going for a while.
So if you're watching this and you're a creator and you want to talk One Piece, reach out to me. I want to kind of do this on a semi-regular basis as to accompany my regular One Piece vlog videos. So those videos come out every Thursday. These will kind of just be in partnership with that. Thanks again, Alex.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'll come on as much as you want to talk One Piece. You have to bring me on when you catch up, because there's a lot we could keep going with. But the shows I know, I'm down to talk about.
Yeah, so thank you guys for listening to this, and we hope you enjoy it. And you can follow me on Twitter if you ever want to reach out. Twitter, the handle @artessays. I don't know if you want to plug your Twitter real quick.
Yeah, YouTube @Movie Meals, and then my Twitter is Movie Meal Al.
Sweet, and they'll be linked down below. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll see you in the next one.